Dear agent of the universe, I'm constantly touched at how you negotiate through the world of evil and hatred that your work life completely and totally exposes you to. How despite your constant exposure to heartbreaking behaviors, your inner strength and goodness radiates throughout you. Before we start our journey into my heart, I want to give you a perspective on something you have mentioned a few times. Do you have a type? Do any of us have a type? And if so, why? If you find yourself in a place where you are single again, the chances are it is because you keep choosing the same type of partner over and over again. Most of us have a type, and that type is based on our past conditionings, which, like it or not, reflect the cracks in us that require closure. Or they will continue to grow until one day they just plain old swallow us up. I am sure if you look back at all the partners you have been with, you'll find a thread of characteristics that tie them all together, which the knotted end is anchored somewhere deep in you. And until you fix those cracks and holes within you, you will continue to have different versions of the same types of relationships throughout your lifetime. When men cheated on me, yes, it was on them and their past that drove them to it. But it was on me to repeatedly choose men that were insecure, selfish, self-centered. Traits that reflected my own, but that I refused to see or acknowledge in me. But through yoga, I learned to objectively look back at my past and see the common thread in all the men I chose, and where the end of that thread was knotted in me. Through a process of awareness, acceptance, understanding without judgment, and then letting go, was I finally able to remove the conditionings that drew me time and time again to the bottomless pit of unhealthy relationships. Conditionings, might I say, more often than not, were someone else's fears and insecurities that were repeatedly dumped on me until I made them my own. This process can be used to understand any behavior that you engage in repeatedly that creates suffering and discord in your life. So yes, our type of friends, partners, animals, jobs are all a reflection of our inner selves. So if you want to learn a little about yourself, what your types are, sit down and objectively, without judgment, take a perusal of the people and the animals in your life, the job you have chosen, the way you live, the clothes you wear. Don't fall into the trap of blaming life, others, and circumstances, because we always have a choice, no matter how small or large that choice is. And the paths we choose within the context we are born into is ours and ours alone. And only once we accept that can we change the path by changing ourselves, if change is really what we seek. The next restraint is not to steal. It is not as simple as it sounds, because it is not merely referring to the theft of material, tangible things. We steal all the time and we don't even realize it. We steal others' joy. We steal their time when we do not show up or show up late. We steal other people's ideas, and worst of all, we steal others' energy by dumping our baggage on them, being negative around them continually. In the non-stealing department, I have been rather good. In fact, I have probably had more stolen from me, time and energy-wise, than the other way around. I have always tried to be fair in my interactions with others, giving more than I take. In fact, I have had to learn to not give all my energy away, which has been the trend that sprouted from my insecurities. Because to not steal also means to find ways to give to others. In the Yoga Sutras, they say this: if you keep up this practice of never stealing from anyone, then there will come a time when people just come to you and offer you all the money that you need. Let me tell you, that is so true. I have left every relationship I was in with nothing, as the fight or the energy attached to that money was just not worth it for me. And every single time I did, a door opened for me and that money came back to me, but in a more healthy way, because of the seeds of non-stealing that I have planted in my head for years through my actions and my words. Start to observe your daily actions. See how many times in a day you steal someone's time, energy, joy, positivity, love, or goods. And yes, that includes things from a hotel. And also, how many people steal from you daily? It may just surprise you the thievery you engage in without even knowing it. The fourth form of restraint is abstinence. A longer letter, so I'll skip to the fifth one here. The fifth form of self-control in yoga is to overcome possessiveness and attachment. To overcome our impulse to acquire, control, and own material goods, people, knowledge, money, events, and certain acts, believing that happiness is to be gained by the accumulation of all of the above. We hang on to the old beliefs and ideas about ourselves and others, as if we are stagnant beings, instead of a river constantly expanding, shifting, and changing. By hanging on to things, ideas, beliefs, we build a fortress around ourselves, fearing anything new or challenging. As a result, our lives remain a circle, never open to new experiences. We just keep going round and round from our past to our present, back to our past, into our present, and so forth. Why on earth would anyone ever want that? I do not know. When we bind our emotional states to attachments, we descend into a state of one of two minds. In the first mind, we find ourselves being happy when we see someone else is gaining. We find ourselves being unhappy when we see someone else gaining something nice, as if there is something so bad in someone else having a moment of joy, as though happiness should only be ours. As a result, we allow our mind to shift to envy and jealousy. Some of us even take it a step further by then stealing that other person's joy with gossip or theft of their ideas. Walking beside this state of mind is the flip side, where we feel joy when another fails, tumbles into misery, and falls, almost as if we are immune to catastrophe and it would never happen to us. What is wrong with us? Observe yourself. How much of your day do you spend being unhappy at others' happiness and happy at their unhappiness, as either they possess what we do not or have lost what only we should possess? Sitting here after a year of COVID, having shut our businesses, I see how attached we human beings, me being one of them, become to our jobs, believing that only we can do that job, and were we to step away for just a while, all would collapse. How that attachment to our work, our attachment to our value, is the number one cause of stress globally, and of course that stems from our ego. The root of all of the above is our continuous misunderstanding of the world, believing happiness is finite. Happiness is to be found outside of us. Happiness, self-worth, and goodness is something to be bought, owned, and possessed, whereas lasting happiness and peace can only ever be found within us. And attachment will only lead to suffering, because one day that thing you are attached to is going to leave, die, break, or fall apart. And then what are you going to do? Love, the Enchanted Yogi.